all inflation is at its core is just a tax on the public. That's pretty much what inflation is. Now, the means of how that happens comes in a variety of different ways. Now, you let Joe Biden tell you, which is the importance of why we have to do things like this for the nation. Because you let Joe Biden tell you, he's just telling you that inflation is coming because of the supply chain shortage and because of Putin's attack on Ukraine. You leave it to them, that's all he's going to tell you, which I'm not saying it has nothing to do with it. But it's not the cream of the cream or the crux of what really inflation is at its core and what is causing it.
Like for a lot of you brothers don't understand, oil is actually the most important export globally. In fact, it's the largest export globally. And due to how the money system works, oil right now is more important than gold. And the reason why I say this, I'm sure a lot of you brothers who are aware of history, back in the 70s, when 1970s, Richard Nixon, that's when the dollar was removed from the gold standard. And it was essentially replaced with oil, because after the dollar was removed from the gold standard, essentially the U.S. and Saudi Arabia made a deal. So by allowing Saudi Arabia basically the ability to buy U.S. Treasury bonds, which are just essentially bills before they were auctioned, that means before like the American public could use those bills. Because the U.S. dollar had such, a high trading power at that time, basically Saudi Arabia, in exchange for them receiving the dollars before many other countries did, in return, basically they would only sell oil in U.S. dollars. And Saudi Arabia being one of the largest oil producers, only selling in U.S. dollars, that would further bolster the strength of the dollar. But not only did they only sell in U.S. dollars, they also, because their oil was one of their largest exports, and they were making so much money with oil, that means a lot of the other goods and services they were purchasing, they also used the dollar as well. And not only that, they would also have to have a high treasury of U.S. dollars, meaning they would have to have a high reserve of U.S. dollars. And this doesn't just apply to the U.S. Every country around the world, they have to maintain a large amount of U.S. dollars in their treasuries in order to just purchase certain goods and services. The main one being oil. I believe currently the United States, in terms of how much transactions when it comes to importing and exporting oil are based in U.S. dollars, I believe it's 60%, maybe a little bit less than that, maybe a little bit higher. It's been a while since I've looked up that number, but I'll just put it like this: the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of transactions when it comes to importing and exporting oil, which, by the way, like I said earlier, oil is the world's largest export. I believe it brings around maybe like 14, I believe like in the trillions, like $14 trillion. Oil brings in when it comes to, it's like $14 trillion oil brings in when it comes to exporting and importing. So the fact that basically the U.S. controls 60+% of all transactions of that $14 trillion, that just shows you how much value the U.S. dollar has when it comes to international trade. And that also trickles down to other exports as well, because if oil, being the largest export, is used mainly on the U.S. dollar, and all these different countries have large reserves of U.S. dollars, you know what that means? They're going to, fuck it, let's just use the U.S. dollars for all our other transactions when it comes to, like, precious metals, when it comes to goods and services, things along those lines. So that's the power that the U.S. dollar has right now. That's why for Saudi Arabia to do this with China, they would kind of be fucking themselves over, at least in the short term, because if they were to switch over to the yuan, it would affect their economy as well, since the U.S. dollar has such important trade value. So they would be losing a lot of their ability to exchange goods, at least in the short term. But so if it's truly the elite's goal, well, actually we know it's the elite's goal to weaken America and the U.S. dollars. But I'll say if it's truly their goal to weaken it, through oil, every country around the world is going to feel that sting
Absolutely.
for a long time.
What's been causing inflation for years and years and years is the amount of excess spending at the behest of the United States in the Federal Reserve. That's been the crux of the inflation that we see right now and the hyperinflation that we're gonna see in the future. You got to think about it. Everything that's been given away for free has a tax to it. Now it's not gonna come in the immediate, but it's gonna come in the long run. What's been given away for free in the past few years? And I'm not even talking about all the trillions that Trump borrowed. I ain't even talking about that. That's a whole other topic. But just going into the Biden administration, what's been given away for free in the midst of the Biden administration, and a little bit towards the end of the Trump administration. You got the stimulus checks. You got free solutions. Y'all know what I'm talking about with the solution. Free test, to see if you got the thing. All that's been free, man. Free mask. All of that, man. All that's been given away for free. There's a tax associated with that, man. And you're not gonna have to pay that right up front, but that's gonna come on the back end in your Starbucks coffee. That's gonna come in your bread. That's gonna come in your gas. That's gonna come in your water bottles from the grocery store. That's gonna come in your toothpaste. That's gonna come in your soap. All of that. That's how you gonna pay that back, man. Because and nothing is free in this world. You're gonna eventually have to pay that back. That's how you're gonna pay that back. But you let Biden tell you that's not the case. That's not the cause or the crux of the inflation. So you have that right there. That's in-house. That's basically in-house inflation. Then you got on top of that, if Saudi Arabia does choose to make this move where they start to sell basically oil, OPEC or whatever, using basically allow China to use the Chinese yuan to have the majority of the buying power with the oil and then spread that throughout the world. If that's the case, then there has to be some kind of tax on the American people for the U.S. to make that up, right? So the U.S. has got to make that up some way, shape, or form, and that's going to come in the form of all the money is going to be back here, and that's going to cause everything to hike up in price because somehow, some way that has to get paid. Somehow, some way, basically you gotta pay that back per se because everything right now is run off of debt. Everything is debt related in terms of job supply, in terms of oil reserves, in terms of goods and services that we get into this country. Everything is debt related, right? So if United States having to go into more debt to be able to acquire certain things because the buying power of the currency has weakened, that's going to cause, like I said, more debt, meaning what? More inflation, basically a tax on the American people in order to pay that debt.
Yeah, I was gonna piggyback off that point because as we know in Revelation 13, near the end of the chapter, what does it say? You cannot buy, trade, nor sell without the stamp. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So at the end of the day, what people need to understand is what needs to be established first is the economics. Why? Because it's the foundation for everything else. Once you get the economics, everything else just flows. You know what I'm saying? The number one way to compromise people into, especially in these times, to do anything is what? Money. Let's be for real. Why did most people get tagged? I mean, well, after a while, money. Especially those that didn't get tagged right away when it was introduced, and and you saw them not necessarily. Well, you could say the commercials, but like pundits get on CNN and blah 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 talking about if you get tagged, you'll be able to go back to regular life and blah blah. All that dumb shit. We're not talking about them. We're talking about those who kind of held out for a little while, but as times got tough for them, guess what they did? Maybe they lost a certain job and they was trying to get another one, and maybe they lost that one too, or were in danger of losing that one too. What happened? They decided to get tagged. Why? Because of money. It is what it is. Economics. So the thing is, they got all this stuff that we've seen so far is like what would you call it, mental test run, because it's going to happen pretty much the same way, but on a much grander scale, because the foundation has now been officially introduced, so now it has to be officially established, and the only way that beast system can truly be officially established in the way that it needs to, for for the left hand, for the great work to be um let, I wouldn't say complete, but pseudo complete, i.e. that putting that spiritual capsule on putting that spiritual what you call it, spiritually completing the Tower of Babel, if you want to say that, is through the economics. They're not gonna be able to get, like back then, what you could say, like what, maybe early AD and late BC and things of that nature. Back then, you were able to control people through what? Through religions and things of that nature. Now it's all about the money. Yeah, fiat money, but it's all about the commerce now. So everything that you're seeing in the news is really based off of uh, the contention between the USD and the won and maybe the franc, the Swift banking system. Everything is about the banking systems and things of that nature. Why? Because that's what has to be established first. There has to be the new currency. It's going to be digital, but there has to be a new currency on the scene that serves as the foundation in which every other nation can stand when it comes to buying, trading, and selling goods. That foundation has to be established first. Yes, there's going to be a lot of destruction and turmoil, as we know, but that's kind of a whole other topic. But that banking system has to be established beforehand, because once they take away, because like as we know, the great whore, her quote unquote her power is slowly coming to an end. So once they take away the USD, I mean, yeah, there's gonna be an off period, so there's gonna be some chaos, because it has to be that in order to. There's gonna be another way to create the need for it, but it has to be replaced. They're not gonna just get rid of the USD and then that's it. There's no more currency. No, there's going to be a new currency, but that currency is obviously going to be digital, because that's the wave. And then they have to replace the USD with something else that could be much more controlled by the government per se. So all the financial stuff that you're seeing, the contentions and stuff like that, like all wars are fought over resources and currency, if not both. So at the end of the day, all this stuff is meant to create that foundation for what will be the next digital currency. Hey, it might be the won itself, the digital won or whatever. It might be, because I heard articles about that in 2020 saying that
it will.
The
digital yuan,
digital yuan is going to be the next is going to be the either the first digital currency or like the next permanent global currency, because China's already ahead of everybody when it comes to economics. I've already said China's the new EU, basically, because as we know, the beast of the sea, America's the military side, the EU's the financial side, i.e. inner city London. Like, I look at China as the new inner city London. Like, they have all of they already know how to control things from an economic, they have a leg up on everybody on how to operate things from a digital economic perspective. So at the end of the day, they're probably going to go with them for the economics. I mean, we'll see. But since they already have the idea and certain tools set into place, what's the point of trying to choose, if you're the international, the powers that were behind the scenes? What's the point of choosing another country where you got to wait for them to create their whole system from scratch, when you already got China, who's been doing it for at least the past decade?